What's going on, internet? I'm the Masked Man, and in this video, I want to talk about the unsung for Red Fox, John Elroy Sanford. He was most notably known for his role in Sanford and Son, a show that debuted in the '70s. He died of heart failure. I think it was in the '90s. I don't remember the exact date. I did not write it down. And they have this special on TV1 that is very popular, where they talk about acts that were not that popular, that were not that big, and they did a Hollywood version that Red Fox was included in, and they spoke on basically to talk about more popular stars, more popular people. Now I've seen a few of these, and I'm gonna do the three that I've seen. Starting with Red Fox, and I'm gonna do more later because I have a stack of these. You can find them for now on YouTube. If you're watching my videos, check them out when you can. I don't have cable. I'm not able to get TV1, so I was able to watch these videos online. So if you haven't seen the special, if you hadn't checked them out, then please do so. Um, One thing I will say about Red Fox, and I'm glad I've seen something where I can talk about stand-up comedy, because stand-up comedy is one of my favorite forms of entertainment. Comedy in and of itself is my favorite form of entertainment, and stand-up comedy in particular is something that I really love and appreciate. It's one of the purest forms of entertainment. It's one of the hardest forms of entertainment, the most unappreciated, and it has evolved, over the years, and it's changed in many different ways. And I feel that Red Fox really doesn't get his recognition, really does not get his credit, for being as influential and as big as he was. Um, One thing that I'm probably gonna say in every video that I do about these unsung specials is still sick when I'm making this, still sick. One thing I will say is that I do not like the tone of how they cover, you know, black movies, black celebrities. I don't like the tone. I don't like it. I did a video, about the documentary about Chris Farley. And in the video, I said that I don't even understand why they're making this documentary. It's about an hour and a half, talking about some guy who was basically, you know, a stunt man. He's a glorified stunt man. The shit that they say about the wrestler Mick Foley, that's basically what Chris Farley is. But if you're trying to make this documentary about fucking Chris Farley as if he was like God's gift to comedy, he had a lot of hits. He made a splash. He's important in the story, I guess. But it doesn't, like, his life should have been a 42-minute TV special on Comedy Central or some comparable network to TV1, and somebody like a Red Fox should have gotten 2 hours like he got. Like, it should have been switched. Because I don't understand how Red Fox, one of the biggest names in comedy, period. Period. And one of the biggest black and best black comics specifically doesn't get better treatment than to have his story told on TV1. I mean, I'm not shitting on TV1. I know that Unsung is a popular thing, but Unsung should just stick to what it does. It should stick to people who didn't have mainstream popularity. It should stick to people who didn't have mainstream success, who are not big names, who are not huge people. It shouldn't cover Red Fox. Red Fox is too big for a 42-minute special on TV1. You make a movie about Red Fox. You make a full-length documentary about Red Fox. You have the best comedians you can get a hold of. Black, white, old, young, male, female, historians, scholars. You get all of them involved to talk about the Red Fox story. You don't give it away on a low level network like TV1, for free. You don't do that. Why are you selling yourself short? If you wanted to talk about Red Fox, finance a proper medium for Red Fox. Do something worthy of his level of celebrity. It's beyond the tone, separate from the tone. It's really disrespectful for you to even do a story about Red Fox in 40 minutes. Like, that's disrespectful. Just in the special that they had, just in the special alone, they said that Red Fox recorded some 30 albums, 30 party records that sold millions of dollars. They could have done an hour on that alone. That could have been a full hour by itself, going through the whole process and how Red was getting paid, and like how the records were rising in popularity and his lifestyle. And the records were made before he was even a star. So that was kind of like the beginning. And they just said a couple of lines and moved on. Niggas love just rushing things and putting out stories and don't care about doing it justice. Red Fox deserved better. I'm not saying it was bad. I'm not saying it sucked. It was fine for what it was, but it wasn't worthy of Red Fox's name. It wasn't worthy of Red Fox's story. It wasn't worthy of it. He should have gotten better than what he got. But then back to the tone. I don't like how the conversation of Red Fox, one of the greatest gifts to comedy. I don't like how this is a sad story. It's so sad. He starts off poor, then he's living on a roof, then he meets Malcolm X, then he starts doing records, and he's spending money like crazy. And he's dumb. He's just not trying to pay his taxes. And, he has mood swings. And it's like, did this man have any happiness in his life? Was he just miserable all the time? Was he always mad or pissed off or showing off for people? Did he have like some side of him that people like being around him, like talking to him? I think I've heard somewhere else that Red Fox was a real funny and insightful guy. I didn't get that sense that this is the person that they wanted to cover. It's like these stories, a lot of times produced or financed or that are nigger controlled, they always want to tell a sad, depressing story. Now, the man ended up dead, but you could have painted Red Fox in a positive light and spoke on his unfortunate passing right when he was about to get himself back on track, right when he was about to get it together. As far as him not paying his taxes, they never spoke on his motivation. They didn't speak on whether he was just cheap, whether he didn't understand how taxes work. This is a man who lived on the roof in the rain. Maybe maybe he was one of those people who felt that the government doesn't have a legal right to impose an income tax. Now, I'm not saying that that was red, but you could have mentioned that and tied that into Red Fox not paying taxes. You didn't have to make him look like a guy who was just a fool who wasn't smart enough to know that you had to pay taxes, so he made everybody pay him in cash. Maybe he was a fool in that respect, in terms of not knowing how money works and the government works. But it just seemed like the tone was just to kind of beat him down a little bit. Like, I mean, my God, one of the greatest comedians and one of his friends, an older lady that had the title as friend, she was just on this nigga like he was so stupid, no common sense. Best comedian in the world, lying there dead. Like, God damn, bitch. You ain't got nothing good to say about your friend? I see why the nigga died. Shit. I don't want you as a friend either. But it's just, I don't get this sense that they really wanted something that painted them in a positive light. Okay, we can't get a Red Fox movie greenlit. We can't do an autobiography to create some buzz. We can't do like a Straight Outta Compton on Red. So we got to do the TV one. But this was not, the tone didn't show him, it wasn't positive. They never really delved into how much of a comedic genius he was. Improvisation, how he constructed his material, um, how hard it is to make all of those innuendo jokes, and who were some of the other comedians that were out in the time, and what the landscape of comedy was. They talked about Cosby and him trying to recruit Cosby to run a business, and Cosby walked away because he was on drugs. It was just a very, very depressing thing. And I think they could have painted his negatives better and elevated his positives higher. Red Fox, druggy or not, he put out a lot of good work a lot of times. You can mention, you can, it's all about perspective. You can talk about Red Fox being able to snort cocaine between the table reads and still get up and deliver his lines without fucking up as a positive, as just how strong of a man Red Fox was. You could paint it like that, but you want to make it seem like he was just such a drug head that he couldn't go 10 minutes without having some coke in his system. It's all about perspective. And I just feel like the people who are responsible for this are not lovers of comedy, and who are not lovers of Red Fox, and don't want to paint Red Fox in the best possible light. They got a particular story, a particular narrative, a particular format, a way of doing things, and Red Fox's name came up, and he just gets thrown into the unsung machine. He just gets grinded up by the unsung machine, and we give you some facts and figures, and we make this look like a, a fucked up guy who made fucked up choices. One thing I will say that I never really knew is how old Red Fox was during the taping of Sanford and Son. He was a guy that looked to be in his mid 60s or 70s, but he was not that old when he was doing that. So he was one of those guys who grayed up young, whose hair got gray young, and who looked much older than he was. He was not that old when he was shooting Sanford and Son. So I was, I always kind of knew that, but, they mentioned, when he was born and when the show was shot and when he died. And it just kind of like helped my clarity of how old he was. So I appreciated that. And I think for what it was, if you didn't know anything about Red Fox or you're not a fan of comedy, and you don't care about how they portray black folks, I think it was an enjoyable time. I think it was an adequately done documentary. I think they had the people that they had. I think they had Cosby in it before the whole, shenanigans with him. They had a historian who I did not like. They had his friend, old lady that ain't no friend that I would want to have. Um, um, I think Eddie Griffin might have been in this one, but he could have been in one of the other ones I watched. They had some good people in it. I really enjoyed it. I really liked it. Um, other than other than the tone, other than the fact that TV One shouldn't have done it, for what it was enjoyable to watch. And you can learn a few things about Red Fox that you probably didn't know. If Red Fox has any books or has any biographies or has any, thing like that, I really want to check them out. I really want to listen to some of those party records and see, how good they were, how much they hold up, do they become redundant, like how his body of work, matches up and how it hangs. So I'm interested in that. So that's pretty much what I had to say. I'm kind of down in the dumps. So let me know what you think. Leave me comments. You can rate the video, like it, dislike it, be honest. You can subscribe to my channel if you want to keep up with the videos that I make. If there is a particular video you want me to make or a subject you would like me to talk about, you can send me an email at themrmassman@gmail.com. No relationship questions, please. I'm not qualified to answer them. You can find me on Twitter and Facebook at the Mr. Massman, and some of my videos on Daily Motion at the Mr. Massman. That is all I have to say about this subject, and I will see you in the next video.